All right. Aloha, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this month's Next Steps program. Today's program is an overview of the services and resources available through the Library and Public Access Rooms Division of the Legislative Reference Bureau. Our presenters today are Jessica Caniglia and Virginia Beck. Jessica is a research librarian at LRB, and Virginia is the PAR coordinator. Take it away, Jessica.
Thank you, Cherise. I'm going to just share my screen here. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Like Cherise said, my name is Jessica Caniglia, and I am a research librarian here at the Legislative Reference Bureau. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about myself. I did get my bachelor's degree in library science, and then I went on to get my master's from San Jose. Most of my public library experience was at the beginning of my career, and that's where I did a lot of my library experience and focus. However, I moved here to Hawaii, and I've been living here for 5 years. And I started at the Supreme Court Law Library and got a taste for special librarianship and dove right into that. I spent a year and a half at the Supreme Court, and then I started here at the LRB, and I'll be celebrating 3 years in July. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what LRB, or Legislative Reference Bureau, is. So it's a nonpartisan research and reference service agency primarily for the legislature. It's one of 3 agencies that are underneath the legislature. The other 2 are the auditor and the ombudsman. Now there's 5 divisions that make up the Bureau. Today we're going to be talking about the more public-facing divisions, me from the library and my colleague Virginia from Public Access Room. Like I mentioned, we are available and open to the public. However, the other 3 divisions, research, statute revision, and systems office, their services are exclusively for our legislators only. Just to give you a brief overview of what those other 3 divisions do, our research division performs research for legislators and their staff. They'll also do bill drafting services for them. And during the interim, they'll also research and write up nonpartisan reports, either at the request of the legislature or if it's a topic that they feel like legislators need to know about. Our statute revision reviews the law that's enacted each session and then incorporates it into the Hawaii Revised Statutes, the HRS. They're also the ones that publish the session laws of Hawaii, which contain the acts that are published each session on a yearly basis. And they do see some government agencies because they're the ones that can review Hawaii administrative rules for conformance with guidelines. And then lastly, our system office, they perform technical support for the Bureau, and they also maintain a database which contains legislative information, which contains like the history and status of all the legislative measures, whether they be a bill. So this database is, like I said, an internal one. However, we do offer public on-site searching here at the library. You can come in and search that database. It actually goes back to 1983. And the systems office also puts out session reports, which are available on the Bureau's website. This includes lists of bills that are introduced each session, what acts were passed, and they also publish a list of all the requests that the legislature makes to all the government agencies in Hawaii for reports, whether it's an annual report or if they want to report on a special topic. They publish this list, and then it's mandated by law that those agencies provide a hard copy to the library. They usually send us a digital copy too, but they are mandated to provide a hard copy so that we can have it accessible in our collection. So I'm going to dive right into the library and its services. First of all, we're located at the state capitol in the basement down in room 005. And we're the ones that are providing information resources, not only to legislators and their staff, but we're also open to the public, and a lot of government agencies use our services as well. We can help perform legislative history, or we can delve into different topics such as land trusts, military issues, crime, other different topics of that nature. We have materials to help with your research. So we're now finally open to walk-in users, yay. During the pandemic, we were closed, and we're providing services over the telephone and email, which those are still holding steady as we've now opened up. We are starting to get some walk-in users now. The items in our collection are available to check out and circulate. Anybody can come in and get a library application. We don't issue cards, so you just show your ID and we can check items out to you. And I'm gonna go over the staff here at the library. So I'm one of 5 degreed librarians here on staff. We each have our own job duties and subject areas that we're focused in. We also have 1 library technician on staff that helps with the more technical aspects of running the library. And then we also currently have 2 student workers that also help performing projects and such at the library. And we don't right now have anyone, but we also partner with UH's MLIS program for interns. So if you are currently an MLIS student and are possibly interested in interning with us, we do offer that. Just be aware of that. I'm going to now talk about what makes up our collection here at the library. We have over 54,000 items cataloged. The bulk of our collection is going to be those legislative studies and reports that I discussed. Currently, we're receiving over 300 reports a year and adding those into our collection. We're also in the process of digitizing the older reports and making those available on our catalog, so you don't have to come in to see the physical copy. We also have a number of active serials, including 3 different newspapers, various law journals, law reviews, different magazines such as Hawaii Business, that may be providing articles of interest to the legislative community. And we do, as librarians, review those publications, and we'll pick out articles of interest to index and catalog and make available on our catalog. We also have all of the books that you need to perform legislative history. As far as the statutes, we have those going back through the 1800s. We have the session laws of Hawaii. We have both the House and Senate journals going back to the 1901. I do want to point out that there's 2 items that we always get asked for and we don't have in our collection is the Hawaii administrative rules. We don't have those, unfortunately. You can visit the Supreme Court Law Library. They have a robust collection of those. And then testimony that's presented during the legislative session. We don't keep copies of that. You'll have to visit the archives for that. We also keep Hawaii Attorney General opinions, and we're in the process of also digitizing those and adding them to the library catalog. We have those currently going back through 1955. A unique collection that we have is our newspaper clippings file. It dates back to the 1970s. So part of those newspapers that we get, we're reviewing those papers for articles that would be of interest to legislators, whether it's dealing with noise complaints as far as like helicopter noise or feral chickens, homelessness, crime rates. We have over 900 subject terms that we can assign and we file after clipping that news article. And they're available for anybody to come in and look at and make copies of. Along with that, we also have biography files. So anytime either a legislator, a governor, or a member of Congress is mentioned in the news, or if we happen to get their newsletter that they may mail out to constituents, we'll put that in their file, and that will just be everything about that one person in one spot. And related to that, we also have a small collection of campaign literature going back again to the 1970s. This is going to be those postcards and fun flyers you get in the mail with election season. Along with that, we will also take donations of those. We do black out any personal identifying information, but it's just a good record of what legislators have been using in the past, what kind of issues are they running on. Next, here's a screenshot from the library's catalog page. We're very excited. It's been refreshed and updated. We did switch to a new system about 5 or 6 years ago. We migrated to Koha. It's open source and they provide tech support. However, in the process of changing systems, the records didn't quite translate correctly, or they weren't brought up to cataloging standards. So one of the big projects that we're working on right now is where each librarian is given a special section of the library, and we're going through shelf by shelf, every single book, we're touching every single one and looking at its catalog record and updating it, bringing it up to standard, adding publication details, maybe editing and updating the subject headings. So we're about halfway through the project now, yay. So we're hoping to be done with that by next year. I'd also like to point out that down here, our library catalog now has a .gov designation. So we used to have a .org. This now identifies us as a legitimate government website. And I'd be happy to discuss that quick process if anybody has questions about that. But along with our library catalog, the library is also in charge of the Bureau's website as a whole. Here on the screen, I actually have a screenshot from the old LRB website. I'm not sure if any of you used the old website. It was kind of not user-friendly or up to standards. We were still uploading and updating via file transfer protocol, having to code everything in HTML. So back in 2019, when I came in, we actually contracted with HIC to make the new Bureau's website. It's fresh and updated, it's more user-friendly. And also on the back end, we now use WordPress to update, so it's a lot easier on the back end as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and click. Here's our website address to give you a little overview of what the library or the Bureau has on their website. So the library is in charge of distributing all of LRB's publications. This includes the session reports and any reports that are written by the research division. They're going to be here on the website under publications. I'm going to switch to my next slide, and I'm going to discuss a little bit about the library's publications that they do in-house, which the big one that everyone knows about and uses, I hope, a lot is the directory. It's published on an annual basis, has phone numbers and emails for any department in government that you'd like to hear about. So that's published, like I said, on an annual basis and is available as one big directory PDF here. However, not a lot of people know is that we will update this throughout the year. So under the individual departments listed here, they have their own PDF. And I'm going to scroll down to one that I know was recently updated so I can show you, County of Maui. So if you click on, it will bring you directly to that department's information. And if we scroll down, you can see that it was last updated. So that way you know how current the information is. We're normally only updating either directors of agencies or any boards and commissions, those type of appointments that are usually published in the news. Or any departments are welcome to reach out to us throughout the year and we can update as we go. The other main publication that the library is in charge of is the Guide to Government. It gives a description of every department and agency in Hawaii, and it also includes organizational charts. This is only updated on a periodic time frame. We did last update it during 2020, so that's pretty up to date now. And that's also available here on the LRB website. Another service that we offer to everyone is our iClips newsletter. This is a listing of headlines, today's news that is going to be of interest to the legislative community, things that their constituents are wondering about, things that they can pass laws about. It's updated Monday through Friday by 10 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and go back to our website so I can show you what it looks like. You can bookmark this page and just update it and come and see what's been updated, or you can subscribe by email and get it directly in your inbox. And it's just a listing, like I said, of headlines. Hopefully the headlines are giving you enough information about what you're interested in. The link will bring you directly to that news article. We'll also identify where it's coming from. I know that one of the complaints that we get is a lot of these articles are behind a paywall. Unfortunately, a lot of our neighbor islands newspapers have gone to a paid format. We are able to get star advertiser articles because we subscribe to that newspaper. So you're welcome to come and take a look at the newspaper and see those articles in print. You can't access it online. But each morning, each librarian is in charge of looking at a select number of news sources, identifying articles of interest, and then I'm the editor and publisher of the newsletter. I go through and kind of narrow down what kind of news we're putting out there. So we do put local news articles, issues for Hawaii, and then we also put a couple of articles of interest at the national level, usually related to what other state governments are doing in their legislative sessions or what might be happening at a federal level as well, could be of interest. And the last service that we offer is we do maintain a Twitter news feed for the Bureau as a whole, and we will update whether there's new publications such as a new session report or an LRB report is posted. We will also occasionally post if there's reports that are coming into the library that may be of interest. A lot of annual reports such as the county police department reports, those are mandated to be received by us. And so we have that in our collection and we might occasionally post letting you know that it's available now. I'll also try and spotlight different services or resources that we have here in the library. And kind of a newer thing that we've started, one of my fellow staff members started this, is our trending news topics and legislative bills in the news. So because we're already on a daily basis looking at news articles, we're able to see and pull out what seems to be in the headlines that week. On this example slide last week, it was big developments happening on the Big Island. So we are linking directly to those news articles that have been in the news that week. And then the really cool thing is we're pairing it with library resources that are available online directly from our catalog that relate to that issue. Maybe it's a more in-depth study on that topic, or it's something that the legislature has already wanted to report on. So we just try and highlight those reports and resources that the library has that's tying into current events. And so along with that, we also alternate with legislative bills in the news. So this is mainly during session and immediately after session when the governor's waiting to sign bills into law. We will again link to any news articles about those bills. One off the top of my head is the period products in schools. So we'll list that out, and then instead of the library resources link, we will go ahead and link directly to that bill status page on the Capitol's website. So this is very valuable during session because you can see where that bill is at in the legislative process. If it's due for a hearing, you can add your testimony. Or if it hasn't been scheduled for a hearing, you can see who introduced it and you can call that legislator and ask for a hearing to be held. So that's just another resource that we've been adding on our Twitter account and trying to engage the public and stay abreast of what's going on with the legislature. So I want to thank you for your kind attention today. I won't be taking questions now. We will be taking them at the end if we have time. I'm going to, right there is our general email and phone number if you have any questions that you want to reach out after this presentation. Happy to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Virginia, who's going to give us a deep dive on the other division, the public access room. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And let me go ahead and share my screen. And I am going to be talking about the public access room here at the Capitol and the public's role in the legislative process. Sometimes we just think of it as coming and testifying at the legislature, and it's a lot more than that. And we'll cover some online resources on both the legislature's website and the public access room website. So my thing is not moving. There we go. So you can consider our office to be your office at the Capitol. If you're ever here in the building, you can use it as a place to come and work. We've got computers you can use. You can recharge your laptop or your phone. You can ask us questions. You can pick up handouts and all sorts of things. We, like the rest of the Bureau, are nonpartisan. We focus exclusively on the process rather than on the policy, and there's never a fee for our services. And you would think that every single state in the country would have an office like the public access room, but as it turns out, only Alaska and Hawaii have such full service offices at their state capitals. So we answer a lot of questions. Everything from what I'm looking at the status page, what does this mean, to trying to find information on bills that were introduced years ago or what's changed from one version of the bill to the next. And the bottom line is that we can really help people become more effective as advocates and save time and frustration. So I would encourage you to not hesitate to be in touch with the public access room or encourage your clients as well. So the public's role in the legislative process, it starts with considering the legislature itself, the 25 senators serving 4-year terms and the 51 members of the House of Representatives serving 2-year terms. They are up for election this year. In fact, the whole 76 of them are. And that's where the public becomes involved. They're actually the ones that put these people in office. So we have to remember that and how important it is for people to vote. Then once they've put the legislators in office, it's important for them to communicate what are some issues either in their district or that they think should be important priorities when the legislature is in session discussing what bills should become law. And that's going to influence the legislators and what kind of bills they introduce. We have what they call a part-time legislature. They're only in session from mid-January till late April, early May. And the rest of the calendar year is called the interim, time between regular legislative sessions. And it's during that time that their offices are still open. Legislators are available to be met with, to be talked to. It's when you can really have an influence on encouraging them, for example, to introduce a bill. And a lot has to happen for a bill to become a law. And we go into this on workshops and that kind of thing. But the long and the short of it is they're going to be referred to committees that they have to go through with the public hearing process. And then they've also got to have 3 votes on the floor of the House and the Senate. And then even if it gets through the House and it gets through the Senate, we have to make sure that they agree on the exact wording of the bill that will then go off to the governor, who signs it into law, allows it to become law without signature, or if the governor vetoes the bill, there's a mechanism for the House and the Senate to override that. And here is a diagram of what that looks like. And it's actually a little more less complicated than it looks, because this actually shows you both a House bill with the solid lines and the Senate bills with the dotted lines. So the bill gets introduced. These are the 3 votes on the floor with all the members, has to go through the committee process, cross over, go through the same thing in the other chamber, come to an agreement on the wording that then goes off to the governor. And it's got to do all of that by deadlines. They publish a calendar of deadlines that everyone has to follow, and they're designed to kill bills, narrow down the playing field. So another way the public can participate is to actually share an idea for a change to an existing law or to create a new law. And they have to go to a legislator. In the state of Hawaii, only legislators can introduce bills. And in other states, there are referendums, there are initiatives and things like that, but not in Hawaii. So usually we recommend that they go to their own legislator or to someone who's interested in the same sort of thing. A public access room can help there. Opening day rolls around on the 3rd Wednesday in January, and it's not a day for heavy lobbying, but it's a great day for the public to come down and introduce themselves and mention what their issue is to lawmakers. And it's also been voted one of the best free food events on the island of Oahu. We'll see if COVID allows us to have the in-person event. The thing about opening day is it really kicks off the session, and it really session starts going at quite a pace. In the first week of session, there'll be a few thousand bills introduced, and the bill introduction deadline is just 1 week after opening day. So if you had a bill introduced, what you would look for is what committees your bill needs to go through. And as soon as you find out what committees it needs to go through, you would ask for a public hearing if you're in favor of the legislation. So you'd go to the person, you'd have to act quickly because those deadlines come up really fast. And you'd want to go to the person with the power, the chair of the committee. And if you need help finding out who's the chair, we can help you find that on either the legislature's website or the public access room website. The reason you want to ask for a hearing is because if it does not get heard, it's going to die in committee. And that's a very sad state of affairs sometimes. And so sometimes advocates will be all excited about a bill that they've gotten introduced, and they will wait patiently to testify, and no hearing happens. So that is a really important step. If the bill does get scheduled for a hearing, of course, then you get the opportunity to testify. And it really does influence things at the legislature. Now, they don't always do what you want them to, but they do pay attention when people testify. And it doesn't need to be elaborate. It can be as simple as, I'm for this bill or I'm against it, and this is why. You don't need to be an expert. Stories are wonderful. That really brings it home to the legislators, the human aspect of the legislation. And you want to use your words and try to keep it to a page if you can. There are times that we would suggest advocating to either your own legislator or to all of the legislators prior to a floor vote, one of those readings. And usually legislation will pass the floor vote, but sometimes it can be controversial, and that's a step that's required. And then you get to repeat the whole thing. When they're referred to committees, it's not uncommon for them to be referred to more than one committee. So you'd have to ask for the second committee to please hear the bill, testify at that hearing, that sort of thing. And certainly if it gets to the other chamber, to do the same. And then even if you made it through the House and the Senate, you'd want to, it's probably going to go to the conference committees where they figure out the final version of the bill. And at that stage, they don't offer the opportunity for testimony, but the public can offer their input one by one, talking to the conferees, the people who have been named to the conference committees, also talking to your own legislator, also talking to anyone that you've developed a relationship with at the legislature, because strange things can happen during this conference process. Now, if your bill makes it through conference and gets voted on for final reading before the end of session, it still has to go off to the governor, who signs it into law, allows it to become law without signature, or if they veto it, there's a mechanism for overriding. The governor has a place on his website where you can offer comments on legislation. He currently has over 300 bills in his possession that he needs to make decisions on by July 12th. And he has to decide on his potential vetoes by June 27th. If you made it through the legislature and got a bill enacted in one session, that would be pretty spectacular. It usually takes a few years, and the Public Access Room offers counseling services where we remind you how important it is to get a hearing, to have discussion on a measure, to teach the legislators and the public to identify opposition, all that sort of thing. Really big step forward. Don't give up, get ready for the next year's session. And it's actually a 2-year legislative cycle. It's a biennial legislature. So it operates between elections. So we'll have elections this year, and next year in 2023, we'll start a brand new 2-year legislative session. So that pretty much summarizes the public's role in the legislative process. And now I just want to touch on some of the online resources. And we'll start off with the legislature's website, capitol.hawaii.gov. And it's been voted as one of the better state legislative websites. And I'll point out just a few of the features on it. You can find the legislative calendar in the top left. In the top right, there's a Find Your Legislator feature where you can find by address who is the senator, who is the representative for that address. If I know a bill number, I can put it here and go to the bill status page. I can search for bills. We'll talk more about that. The HRS is available either to browse it or to search through it. Session laws for all of the session laws are available either by year or to search. And then down here at the bottom, we've got easy buttons for lists of legislators and committees, all of the hearings, links to the YouTube pages. We've got some interactive buttons we'll go into, and lots of information on the homepage. So if I put in a bill number in that bill status, measure status box, I would come up with a bill status page. And this is where everything that ever happens to the bill is going to be recorded on the bill status page. If I want to see the most current version of the bill, it'll be right up at the top of the page. Right next to it is a PDF symbol, and that's the same content, but it's going to show you the line numbers and the page numbers, which is sometimes really helpful if you're talking about specific portions of the bill. If I want to see prior versions, they're over here on the right. Committee reports that accompany bills as they move forward out of committee. Those can be read here, and those will highlight the changes that were made from one version of the bill to the next. The public testimony, the written public testimony that was received, can be read here. And then we've got the hearing notices that you can look at, or in real time or after the fact, you can watch the proceedings. So that's a lot of information that's available at your fingertips. Sometimes though, you don't know the bill number, so you'll need to find the bills. So there are two basic ways to find bills, using the keyword search and the subject search. And the first way is the keyword search, which is on the home page. It's the second search box, and they've got instructions on how to use the search boxes up at the top, but it will search for a word in the entire contents of bills, committee reports, all kinds of things. If you want to search for a phrase, you need to put it in quotation marks, which is what we've done here with public library. And then you just click on go. And up come your results, which in this case, frustratingly, starts with DCs, which are departmental communications. These are usually reports that were done that include the name public library. So if we go to the next page of results, we'll see actually getting into the bill numbers that we may want to explore. It may be hard to know whether a certain bill is of interest or not, so you have to go in and out of the status links. On the right-hand side, if you want, they deliver subsets, so that if I was looking for public library land, I could click there and refine my search. Another way to refine your search on this is to use the menu assisted and advanced features up at the top of the page. And this is the menu assisted form, which, as you'll see, helps you to build a query. And you'll note that you can go back in time and do multiple year searches at the same time. The advanced form is much the same. So that's one way to find bills. Another way to find bills is to use this button called the Reports and Lists. And the Reports and Lists button is my favorite button on the website. It is a wealth of information that appears on the Reports and Lists page. It opens in this deadline tracking mode where you can find all of the bills that have been introduced. You can find bills that have passed certain deadlines. You can scroll down and find the bills that are sitting on the governor's desk. You can find the bills that have been enacted. You can also find measures by introducer, all sorts of information. But today we're going to look at the subject search feature. And if you click on that, up comes a search form that is going to search not the entire content of the legislation, but the report, the measure titles, the keywords, and the descriptions of the measures. But usually that's enough. And it's going to look for the exact text that I enter. So no need for quotation marks. So we'll search for public library here, and up comes our results. And you'll see these results are a lot easier to scan. I can just read at a glance what the bill or the resolution is about. And I can click in and out of the status pages or look at the legislation itself and see the current status of the measures. So interactive features. There are 3 interactive features on the legislature's website, and the first time you use them, you need to register with the website with a name, email address, and a password that you create. And after that, you just sign in. The buttons turn orange, and you can select one of them to do what it does. So if the first thing that you may want to do is sign up for hearing notices, so that if a bill does get scheduled for a hearing, you don't miss the opportunity to testify. So you just sign in and click on hearing notification, and up comes this form, and you put in a bill number, click on add, and then anytime those bills come up for a hearing, I'll be sent an email notice. Now you can also subscribe by committee. So if I'm interested in education, for example, I can choose the House and the Senate Education Committees, and anytime they have a hearing, they'll send me an email. Doesn't look very pretty, but it'll have the link to the hearing notice, and I can review what's being discussed and see if there's anything that I want to offer my testimony on. The end of the hearing notice will be the instructions on how to offer testimony. You'll use the interactive button called testimony to register to provide oral testimony and to submit your written testimony. And so you'll just click on the testimony button, you'll put in the bill number, up comes this form, you'll fill it out, and then you'll either upload a file, just like you attach a file to an email message, or you can type your testimony in the testimony comments box. Either way works. And then you click on submit. And you'll get a little green box that shows that you've successfully submitted your testimony. If you've also requested Zoom, you'll get a Zoom requested notation that will turn into a join button, so that when the hearing time comes, you'll sign into the website, click on testimony, then that join button, and you'll be in Zoom land. The third interactive feature is the measure tracking feature, and I'm not going to go into how to create it, but just to say that you name it something, you put bills on it, and then you generate a report which will show you all the bills you're interested in at one time, which really saves a lot of time. And there's a place where you can add your own notes. And the nice thing is, if I'm looking at, say 20 bills that I've got on my measure tracking report, but want to see what's changed most recently, what's changed in the last couple days, I can double click on the current status header, and it will resort my report so that the most recent activity comes to the top of the page. And then I can always resort it by measure number and send it out as a PDF to my friends and colleagues, and they'll think I worked hours on this thing. So the Public Access Room website, we're part of the Legislative Reference Bureau family of websites. And you can always find us by going on the legislature's homepage and using the links shortcuts. And just a couple things I want to point out. One is the Engagement 101 that you can find under the Engage tab or at the bottom of the page. And that's where you'll find all of the instructions on how to use the interactive features. And there'll be videos as well as Word documents and things like that. And then the other thing I want to highlight is the current legislature page, which is where you can find all sorts of helpful handouts, like what deadlines apply to my bill, to information at a glance showing all the legislators and what committees they're on, to office managers, all sorts of things that it's kept up to date. And then finally, I want to just mention, we've got a lot of information on our website. Under the Learn tab, we've got some great information on the legislative process, Hawaii government, and we've also got a Keiki page, which is very nice. The bottom of our website, we've got our social media links, and our YouTube page has become quite popular, and it's got a lot of different workshops that we've recorded as people have requested them. So if you can't find what you're looking for, I would encourage you to get in touch with the Public Access Room. Keanu Young and I work here year-round, and we're very happy to help. And I think that's about all from me, and I will turn it back over to Cherise.
Thank you, Virginia. Give me a second. Thank you. We've got maybe a minute or so. Does anybody want to ask the audience if they have any questions for Jessica or Virginia? Any questions? Go ahead, Gwen.
Hi, thank you both, Jessica and Virginia, for your fantastic presentations. That was so well done and so packed with information, and I really appreciated it a lot. I have a question for Virginia, and that is if we've had some high-profile corrupt legislator situations recently. So if a person wanted to find out about who the lobbyists are and who is in campaign finance and those sorts of things, does the PAR offer resources for that kind of research?
Sure. Well, what we would do is refer you to the Ethics Commission, which handles the lobbyist registration and their reports, or the Campaign Spending Commission, where you can look up how much money has been contributed to different candidates. And I would also mention there's a special committee, and I'm blanking on the name at the moment, that was established in the House anyway, that is looking at ways to change the legislative process to maybe make it a little bit better. And I believe you can offer your feedback to that committee, and you can find that information on the House page.
Thank you, Virginia. That was very interesting information. I think a lot of us are kind of we're interested in that. Do you have any other questions for our presenters from the audience? I don't want to take everybody's time, but all the information that was in the presentation will be sent out later and along with today's program. Well, this concludes our program today. I want to thank you for joining us for this month's Next Step program. Please feel free to email me or the HLA web email with any ideas for future programming. Today's program is made possible through HLA members like you. So to join or continue to support HLA, please check out our website or social media. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.